Yeah, so I don't hunt Washington hardly at all.
Yeah.
So we do this drive nonstop. I love it. And
do you hunt much in Montana?
Yeah, when I can. I mean, typically whenever I get a tag, like Montana's a high priority. Mm-hmm. It's harder and harder to get one, but
it is.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Like elk combo, deer combo. Yeah, if we can get it.
That's the nice thing about, people ask why lately I've been hunting more down in New Mexico, and it's like the elk numbers down there. It's hard to argue compared to like public land here. You drive down there and it's just crazy the amount of elk numbers that they have compared to a lot of spots here, especially in western Montana with the way the wolves have hurt the populations. It's just different than it was like when I was growing up.
Yeah. What year do you think you saw that because I grew up hunting North Idaho, which I think is an extension of Northwest Montana. It's all the same to me.
Yep.
Lolos, Clearwater.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the Idaho line from right here is probably 10 miles. I mean, 20 miles. Probably.
So I got to experience great elk hunting until about, I would say I saw my first wolf 2011 was when I saw the first wolf pack, like move in on elk that I was hunting.
I was going to say 2005. It felt like in that range of like that early to mid kind of 2000s, right in there, 2005 to 2010. Like it felt like it was changing significantly.
And prior to that was the heyday,
Yeah, I mean,
90s.
when I grew up in the 90s, right? I'm 43, so I graduated in 99.
Okay.
So even like the Gardner, Montana elk tag was one of those, special draw, but if you got it, the joke was just take a pair of tennis shoes, right? Because you had to try to beat all the other hunters because they gave out a ton of tags, but the elk were pouring out of the park then. I mean, by the thousands, that elk migration out of the park was insane. And I had knife customers buying hunts down there from outfitters and hunting and whatnot. And by 2010, most of those outfitters were out of business. I mean, it changed so much down there. But more up here, felt like the elk got quieter. And it felt like you started seeing a lot more elk down in private. Like where I grew up in Lincoln, which is 100 miles east of here, we never saw, in 20 years of living there growing up, never had an elk in my parents' property. And my parents' property is just a half a mile from Lincoln, right on the edge of town, right in the river bottom, like whitetail country.
Yeah.
My parents now have elk in their yard all the time. It feels like those elk got pushed down into the valleys.
Oh, definitely.
I started figuring out that around humans is the safe place to be.
Yeah, that was definitely a kind of an evolution to where you had to change your tactics to the point where I don't even hunt North Idaho for elk anymore. I feel bad. Like there's some elk still, and the ones that have made it are doing good. And not to be doom and gloom, but like the landscape's changed.
Yep.
Quite honestly, and it's not the experience I'm looking for. In this thick and brush country and timber, they got to talk.
Yep.
If you're archery hunting or you're just nature walking. So I immediately noticed that the callings plummeted. The elk were acting different. The herd sizes drastically shrunk. Mm-hmm. I used to typically a typical North Idaho elk hunt would be, you kind of hunt from the top down. So they're in the bottom of these holes. You let out a bugle in the morning and you got a herd bull and you got 4 or 5 satellites on every finger, and he's defending 20, 30 cows.
Right.
A lot of fun, man. And then now.
Yeah, and you got to try to figure out how to work into all that and get to him.
And drop down and wait for the thermals. It was awesome. And now last time I hunted, it would be a herd bull and a herd bull isn't normally a herd bull anymore. It's like a 5-point running 3 or 4 cows. Right. And you're like, you shouldn't be running this herd.
If they even answer.
And the bugles are done by 7:30. And so it's changed, and it's not the experience I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. I still hunt predators in that country. I get bear tags every year and try to hunt wolves and cougars and do my part there. But it's changed, man.
I mean, it's definitely not just wolves. I mean, the mountain lions, and it seems like there's more and more cat hunters a little bit here lately. It seemed like it went for years, and maybe it was just my own little tiny bubble of, like, when I grew up in Lincoln, I knew a ton of guys. There was there was at least 6 or 8 guys that all had dogs, and they were all running cats. And then it seemed like that really went away. Like, I didn't know anybody with dogs. Now, right here around Frenchtown, there's like 4 different people that are all running hounds, but man, they struggle with the wolves.
Right.
The wolves, every one of these guys have lost hounds to wolves, and they won't even let out. I mean, and they even call each other, and they'll forewarn each other, like, hey, I was just up 9 Mile up Rennet Creek, and, you know, just cut a bunch of fresh wolf tracks, you know, because, you know, their buddy could be running unbeknownst to them just the next drainage over and not see those wolf tracks and let out, and those wolves are just the top of the ridge on the other side, you know. So they try to really communicate with each other just to help protect each other's dogs.
Have you seen the devastation of when a hound gets killed, like what they're coming back to? Like, it's
ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think your listeners would care to hear it, but they're gonna. You'll come back. I mean, so wolves kill more wolves than any hunter, like very territorial animals, you know, and they do not tolerate other dogs, like plain and simple. And so it's a death sentence to those hounds. And they're running Platts. And those aren't small dogs. And Walker hounds, those are a little bit more wiry. But you'll come back to a skeleton and just a head, and it will have happened minutes ago.
Well, there's a guy here locally. I think he had 4 or 5 of his hounds all, and none of them were actually killed by the wolves, but he had to put every one of them down when he got to the tree.
And that's your family
members, they had
members,
their guts
man.
ripped out. And, I mean, they were just shredded by those wolves. Yeah, it's an awful deal. What's really interesting to me is I was hunting in up in Canada with Nick Chilcolton Outfitters. We were hunting bears, and tons of bears up there. I mean, northern BC, just like deer, just everywhere. And they run dogs, and you know, they were letting dogs out on, you know, different tracks or different scents and stuff. And I started asking him, like, don't you have problems with wolves up here? And he was like, basically was like, what are you talking about? And they have a ton of wolves up there. And he said they never, ever have problem with wolves, ever, with their dogs. And I started thinking about it. And I the only explanation I can come up with is either it's different kind of strains of wolves, and ours are either more aggressive, or I think it's actually this. I think it's a territory thing. To your point, like, these territories here, these mountains look big to a human, but they're small. Like, you go over the top of this mountain right here, and you're in the little town of Dixon, right on the other side. You know, you go over the top of this mountain, and you're in Lolo. And when you start looking at the territory of our areas, they're, other than like down in Idaho, like Frank Church Wilderness, Selway, like that's huge country. I mean, from my house right here all the way to Boise, I think there's one paved road. But the rest of this is like little mountain ranges with towns all around them in the valleys. And I feel like those wolves have to protect their areas way harder. And the number of bears, mountain lions, and grizzly bears that we have, black bears and grizzly bears, it feels like our wolves around here have to just be way more territorial. I don't know if you've seen that or...
No, I totally buy it. Yeah, first off, I have a golden doodle, Aussie doodle. You ever been behind your dog just trotting down a road where they can trot at this effortless pace that is mind-blowing, where like my dog can literally go miles and miles at a pace that is just absurd. And it's not, I would not call it even running. I would just call it like a low key jog. And so the wolves can travel. I mean, their loops are 70, 80 miles in length, and they can cover it in a week or day if they need to, depending on the hunting. Yeah. There's not enough real estate for these packs.
In 80 miles here, you'll find 10 towns.
Yeah.
And up there, we were driving logging roads. It'd be like leaving here and driving logging roads when we were hunting to Spokane.
Yeah.
And not see a single house, town. Like, the bush up there is just so massive and sprawling. It almost feels like those wolves, if they get a little bit of pressure, they can just move off and just avoid each other.
So it's kind of like a carrying capacity thing.
Yeah.
There's just more capacity for those wolves to
feels like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would buy that. And yeah, I don't even know how many packs are in the little area that I hunt, but I know that they're territorial and they're going to fight for their land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you grow up hunting?
So kind of. I mean, my dad was a hunter, and
Did you grow up in Spokane?
Yeah, I grew up in Elk, Washington.
Oh no, shit. When my wife's dad passed away, that's where he lives.
Oh, really?
He lived in Elk.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just north of Spokane.
That's cool. Yeah. So he was a hunter, and unlike my son, who you just met, who's not really interested in hunting, to be honest with you, I begged him to take me every second, and he obliged. So I just have the best memories of falling around grouse hunting, deer hunting, to the point where when I was 10, I was like, I'm getting my license. I took my test, and in Washington, you don't have to be 12 like here in Montana. So I had my hunter safety card at age 10 and got a rifle, and I was hunting.
Yeah.
Now, I did take a big break, like as soon as, I would say junior high, when you're doing 3 sports.
Yep.
Hunting did not matter to me. It was all about sports. But the second I graduated high school and didn't play college baseball, I was like, I'm going to get back into hunting. And that's all she wrote. So I picked up right kind of where I left off.
Yeah. So what did your parents do when you were growing up?
So my dad was actually a pastor for a few years at an Elk community church. So we were pretty dirt floor poor. And then I think he had enough of being poor and doing the Lord's work. And so he got a real job, went back to school.
So he wasn't like Joel Osteen.
No, I don't think he was. I don't think that many people. That's awesome. And then we moved.
He didn't have cash stuffed in his walls of his house.
No cash in the walls, and we moved to town. We moved to Spokane. He got a job, and my mom became a nurse. And it seemed like they worked a lot.
Yeah.
From that point going forward, as we were being brought up, they did a lot for us. So yeah, technically, I would say I'm from Spokane, but I grew up for 7-8 years in good old Elk, Washington.
Yeah, there's not much happening in Elk.
No, there's not.
Pretty small.
And there's not that many elk in Elk.
It's amazing that's true. It's amazing the climate difference between Elk and Spokane.
Yeah.
Like you just go up the hill there and how much more snow they get.
This is a snow belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your winters here?
Pretty mild.
Really?
Yeah. Missoula, now, again, it's kind of like Elk. I mean, if you leave this valley and you drive back west towards home 10 miles, just as soon as you climb up out of this valley, it changes.
Right.
Know? Yeah. And I mean, by the time an hour west of here, you get to St. Regis and there's deep snow.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it's actually kind of nice because you're down here, it's pretty mild, but I mean, you pop up in the mountains anywhere around here and you're in all the snow you want.
The history here is so cool with the railroads, the mining, the logging, the first Bureau of Forest or National Forest, GP and Teddy Roosevelt. Smoke jumpers, the big fire and the big burn of 1910.
Yep.
Wallace down to like Taft.
Yep.
St. Regis. Like this place has got its own history. You're mining for copper here, but if you go to Idaho, it's silver. And
right.
I just love it
yeah.
For all the history. And oh man, I would have loved to been around those times just to kind of see what kind of living those guys were making, logging without any machines.
If you stop into like I think at the Montana bar up at Saltese, you stop into the bar and you see these old photos of those loggers back then and the logs that they were trying to move and, with a team of mules hooked up to them or trying to load them onto a train, or even some of the pictures of them building some of the train trestles all out of wood. Kind of the engineering feat of what they were able to accomplish, but then just the physical manual labor of those guys. I mean, you even see some of the old chainsaws. There's a bar up in the middle of nowhere up Petty Creek called the Lumberjack, and it's like 4 logs high, the walls, but the logs are freaking 4 feet across, or they're massive.
Yeah.
And they have all the old like chainsaws that those guys used to run sitting up in the rafters.
Oh, that's sick.
And I mean, you want to talk about some man shit.
Yep.
Like, I mean, just heavy steel. It's like holding a lawnmower in your hands, You just can imagine how tough those people were back then.
Have you seen like some of the flumes they've built to like move logs down creek bottoms and drainages into rivers, and just the engineering feat, like it's so inspiring. Loggers, miners, they're all tough, mad respect, and this country was built on that.
Think of those miners that came out here and then just hiked up some draw somewhere and just like, I'm going to start digging right here and just dig a hole in the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Like, and then they had to survive the winter, built little cabins or whatever. I mean, the grit that those people had, all to chase like their dream. Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and no Gore-Tex. Like, you also look at what those people were wearing, like their footwear, the clothing, they're not wearing rain gear, and God, it's amazing. And then the fires in 1910, for a lot of people that aren't from here, I mean, this massive fire complex, up towards Idaho, into Idaho, and then down into Montana.
It was like I want to say 3 million acres.
Something like that.
Something like that. But think of it like no rain in May.
Right.
No rain in May, no rain in June and July. So that's crazy. And then dry lightning, and you have 1,000 fires overnight.
Yeah, and you also don't have retardant planes.
No.
Bucket helicopters. I mean, once that shit gets going.
There wasn't even a Pulaski invented yet,
Yeah. And when I was a lineman, we would do a lot of work up there because our area right here in Missoula covered all the way to the Idaho line.
Okay.
So we have power lines running over those mountains like to the dam in Thompson Falls. So we would have to take snowcats up there or hike all that stuff, looking for like trees in the lines. And
were those your lines that cross I-90 at Taft?
Yep.
Oh, that's okay.
Yep. And so, there's a big 500,000 volt line that feeds into Taft right there. Mm-hmm. But every now and then you would see a tree that was clearly a survivor of the 1910 fires, because like a massive tree that was just different than everything else around it. And you notice if you drive that pass and you look, you'll see trees here and there sticking out or sticking up above the ridge line that's just way bigger than everything else around it. Just a few of those surviving trees from those fires from those years. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the town of Wallace, completely gone. The town of Avery, which is what I named my daughter after that town, Avery, that's up there in, Idaho, St. Joe area. It was like that town didn't burn down because of, was it the Buffalo Sol? I'm not a historian, but the Buffalo Soldiers did a backburn there and saved the town of 1910. That fire. There's some good books out. I've read quite a few on the fire. Obviously, it's been a while, but love the history of this place. And
what's the deal with Wallace, Idaho, with the whole center of the universe thing? What is that?
I guess that's exactly. I mean, that's what it is. Whatever that means. They say it's the center of the universe. But I think more importantly, that's where Dante's Peak was filmed.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, back in the 90s. But yeah, the center of the universe. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what they say.
I have a couple of remote employees in Idaho, and I call Idaho the fence between Montana and Washington, Oregon, like the crazies.
Yeah, where I'm from, yeah.
Yeah, so Idaho needs to do a little better job on the fence, keeping some of those people out of our state.
And see, I think Washington needs me. Like most people in my situation would have already moved. My wife said, no, all right. So I will hold the fort down for y'all in Washington. And
but Eastern Washington, I mean, it's like a lot of these states. When you look at them, like Eastern Washington is largely ag.
Yeah.
Right. Eastern Oregon, Eastern Colorado.
Yeah.
You look out in the, outside of Vegas and Reno and Nevada, it's ranch country, even a lot of California. But you look at all these, all these states, and they're just dominated by one or two cities. I mean, you look at Washington, it's dominated by, a couple 100 square mile area, vote-wise.
The Wolf introduction, I'm not going to call it the Wolf introduction in Colorado was 90 counties voting no, and just Boulder and Denver saying yes. And that was the decision makers, the people that it won't affect.
Yep.
So I'm used to that in Washington. My vote probably doesn't count.
Well, that's how Washington lost Spring Bear, right?
Yeah. Yep. Not too long ago, man. And more stuff kind of keeps coming up. So
that's where I've said, we as brands and as hunters and whatnot, if we find people that express interest in wanting to hunt, especially like celebrity types, right? we need to embrace those people and try and get them out, because I use Washington as an example. What if Russell Wilson was still on the Seahawks and still like the big star of the state, right? And that issue came up. What if he was a huge bear hunter? And his voice, like how big of a voice would someone like that have if what if Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City was a huge hunter?
Sure.
Right? Or whoever the star is on the Denver Nuggets, Jokic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like what if these guys were hunters? And so like when we find out that there's people like that with influence that outside of the hunting world that want to hunt, man, we need to try and get them out. Like we shot that film with Natalie Eva Marie. I took her on her first elk hunt because she just expressed to me over Instagram that she'd like to learn how to hunt. And people were asking like, why are you taking this pink-haired WWE wrestler out? And it's like, well, she has an enormous reach that none of us have, right? Into a community of people that are maybe largely non-hunters.
1,000%.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if they potentially love her, I think she had 5 or 6 million kind of combined followers with her stuff, right? Well, if we take her and we show this in a positive light, and some of those people watch that film, even if they move from anti to neutral, you've potentially won, right? What if they just abstain from voting on that particular issue on the ballot in Colorado, right, or in Washington? Yeah. Or even better yet, what if they're like, gosh, Natalie Eva Marie went and did it, and now I understand like why she wants to see where her food comes from, and it looked like it was ethical, and they hear all these different points, and maybe it moves them from anti to actually even just like helping us defend our right to be able to do it, you know? Yeah,
I think I haven't personally seen your guys' film, but I've seen some of your social content with her. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's all we can really ask is for the audience being largely non-hunting to not be converted to anti-hunting, you know, to not be fooled by some sort of propaganda
right.
that store meat is better right. or that hunting is not needed anymore. Because I don't know about you, man, but if you can convey what it's like to be away from that cell phone mm-hmm. and Wi-Fi connectivity and be still in the mountains, I'm not even talking about shooting an animal
right.
yet.
Right.
I'm just talking about unplugging
mm-hmm.
to learn about yourself, which everyone needs. That's a great message that a lot of people can get behind. You know, I think, yeah, I'm here for what you're saying, but I also know that, you know, there's going to be some blowback for that, certainly. And that's okay. But shout out to her for, like, you know, she's putting herself out there.
No, she did. And she did it like completely legit. She showed up. She didn't, you know, act like some celebrity that expected special treatment. She was like, what do I need to do? What are we doing? Willing to hike and do everything the way it was like, we're going to take you on, like, we're going to hunt for real. And the thing is like, we could come out, you and I could get together and go hunt and make a cool film, and we could have a few different industry partners help sponsor it, and we could put out this badass film, but we're going to largely holler into an echo chamber, right?
Yep.
90% of the people that are going to watch that film are already going to feel like we feel. So we're not necessarily going to move the needle from a, you know, governmental, you know, ballot initiative standpoint, right? So I understand some people, they see that and they're like, oh, you're just hunting with that person to get, you know, whatever, followers or whatever. And it's like, man, we have got to, when you find out that we have people that are interested, you know, when someone like Bo Nickel, who's a UFC fighter, wants
right.
to go hunting, right? When, I don't care who it is, when they want to go. And also, like, does it really matter what you look like? Like, okay, she's pink-haired and WE chick. Half these guys out here that are hunting, when you see them on Tuesday, they're wearing a suit and they're in a courthouse. They're lawyers or they're doctors or they're whatever. Once you put on your camo and you're out there with your bow or your rifle, you're just a hunter, you know? So I don't know. We need more people. What we also need people to understand is the benefit that hunting provides to people that also use those trails, hikers, bikers, the public access, public land access, conservation of the animals' habitat and the animals themselves. Look at the work that all these different nonprofits do, whether it's the Elk Foundation or Goat Alliance or Sheep Foundation, whoever, right? All of them.
Yeah, there's payrolls too that we also support. Biologists don't do flyover studies in late winter for free. And the gas to fuel the planes and helicopters, that costs money. And then to have in the field biology and, we lean on their scientific data for them to formulate the best. Here's the best trends for the animals. This is what's the best interest of the public domain, these animals, this many tags. We sponsor that. That's right. We fit the bill for that. Your little pass to go on a hike, that doesn't cover it. You know what I mean? That's pennies on the dollar. So yeah.
And the reason really for all of this is so, you have, your boy here is just a little younger than my kids, but I mean, my biggest fear is that I'm going to have grandkids someday that don't get to hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up, like you said, we grew up in the absolute golden era, frankly, of hunting where, and especially where you lived as well, where I lived, you could just drive up in the woods and hunt. And we still here in Montana, we're still super fortunate. I mean, almost everywhere you look, we're surrounded by public land. Yep. So it's still, the ability to hunt is there, but making sure that we still have animals on the landscape to actually hunt, With sports, you said baseball, you were a college baseball player?
So no, I played wrestling. I wrestled for a while, and then I really pursued football and baseball. Those were like my two jams.
In high school?
Yeah, and then I accepted a scholarship to play at a small community college baseball team, and I actually just decided to quit at the last second before actually moving, and I'm so glad I did. I was so burnt out on the politics and bureaucracy with baseball. I was over it, and
Did you grow up, are you young enough to have grown up kind of in like the travel baseball era where you'd playing tons of travel stuff? And
yeah, no, I was obsessed with baseball. I played fall ball and football at the same time. So I'd be on a high school team playing in NWAC, or NWAC community college baseball team. So I'd be facing college pitching while in high school.
What position were you playing?
Mainly third base,
Okay.
Second base, third base, but middle infield, shortstop, leadoff type hitter, football, strong safety. But baseball is probably my best shot to play college sports. Like no one's giving me a scholarship for football. I was too little, but I'm the only 1 year younger than you. So yeah, tons of travel ball, and started working out and doing all the fitness because of sports and hunting. I did not hunt a single day from the time I had junior high to high school. But the second I quit baseball, man, it was like, well, what am I going to do in the fall? Oh, I remember hunting being awesome. My dad did such a good job with me because I only had positive memories and adventures with him hunting.
Yep.
And so I wanted to pick it up 6-7 years later. So yeah.
Yeah. And then what did you do for work when you got out of when you decided not to play baseball? Did you keep going to college?
Yeah. So I went to college and did an undergraduate degree in exercise science, a master's degree in exercise phys, and I managed health clubs and trained athletes all throughout that while I got my schooling. And then at some point, I wanted to be a strength coach for NFL. That was the dream job. And I was pretty on track to do it. I had my what's called the CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. I had my master's. I was doing interns in Arizona, internship, working with the 2006 top draft picks for the NFL Combine, helping them prepare for the NFL Combine as an intern. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a job probably at a college as a strength coach. I'll work my way up to the NFL. But then I found elk hunting.
Yeah.
And I was like, literally had a moment where got an elk with a rifle and I got into bow hunting, and I'm like, there's no way I'm on the sidelines in a different city every weekend being a strength coach and missing bugling. So I changed career paths real quick. Wanted to be in the fitness industry, but certainly wasn't going to be NFL. No way.
You see a ton of pro athletes getting into hunting post playing, but they can't. I was just discussing this actually with Derek Wolf, that played for the Broncos, and he's gotten largely back into hunting now that he's done playing football. But it came up because my son is a really athletic kid, big athletic kid.
Yeah, how tall is your boy?
6'4".
Okay.
Yeah, and he just turned 16. He's like 225 pounds. I mean, he's a big kid.
Are the Zags looking at him?
They better be.
I hope so.
He's been making some pretty good waves in camps this summer, so we'll see. But basketball and football are the two that he loves. But he loves to hunt. And so it came up this year. I ended up buying a moose hunt this fall with Dustin Rowe up in northern BC, basically right in the edge of the Yukon. And I actually initially offered it to my little girl, my 14-year-old, and she was really excited about it, but then she got to stressing out about schoolwork. And this is kind of I can't complain about this too much because as a parent, you drive your kids when they're young to care about schoolwork, care about academics, do well, work hard, do your best, right? Be on point, be on time, don't miss, like all the things you preach. And then you buy them a moose hunt when they're 14 and tell them they're going to miss 10 days of their freshman year of high school. And my daughter was just like stressing out about it and got to the point where she's just like, I can't go. Like she's so worried about her grades, right? Which is a good thing. But I'm also old enough to have a little perspective. I'm like, you're not going to miss that 10 days of your freshman year. When you're 30, you're going to look back and not remember it. So anyway, then offered it to my boy. And same thing, he was over the moon about it. Like, I'm going. Well, then he started getting pressure from his football coaches about, like, he's kind of somewhat of a main player, but he's only going to be a sophomore.
What's the dates of the hunt?
Basically, we leave the day after his first day of practice, and it's 10 days. So it's August 18th through the September 1st, basically, right in there.
So would he miss double days?
Yep. He missed double days, and he's going to miss his first 2 weekends.
Oh, if I'm his coach, I don't like you, but man.
So here's my thing, right? This is where he started coming home, and he's really waffling. And I was like, hey, man, you're basically going to be the main player on this team in the next couple of years, right? Junior and senior year. I wouldn't even put him in that position. Junior and senior year, like, you're going to be the leader. You're going to be the man on that team. Your team needs you, right? But one regret a little bit that I had is we were so heavy into sports all the way through my kids being young, and I coached everything, basketball, football, all of it, right? Baseball, softball. And I didn't, and my kids were generally always the top player on their teams. So I didn't say enough like, hey, this next weekend, we're just going to be gone, right? I'm the head coach. The kid's a main player. It's 5th grade freaking basketball or 5th grade football or whatever. We should have just been like, hey, we're going to be gone. Someone else is going to take the team, assistant coach, right? And it is what it is.
See, I wish my dad would have been a little more. He was a coach for a lot of my stuff, and I wish he would have put the hammer down a little more. It's like, nope, this is an annual. We're non-negotiable. We're going hunting. Because I would have loved to have done that.
I should have done that.
Okay.
Because I've asked my kids, this is the benefit of hindsight, right? And if young parents out there, it's hard to express just how into sports we were. I mean, we were super serious about it, right? I asked my kids here a year or two ago, I was like, what is your all-time best memory of sports? Like, what's your game? Like, you threw the winning touchdown, you scored the winning 3-point shot, whatever, hit the home run. What is like your all-time favorite best game? And my boy was like, I don't know, like the championships, all the championships we won or whatever. I was like, no, that's team-wise. That's a season. Like, what's your like one game? And he couldn't really name a game, right? And then I was like, tell me about that buck on the wall or tell me about that buck. And every single buck, whether it was my daughters or my son, they could tell you where we like pulled the camper out, where we parked it, like, oh, on this little piece of state land, remember that? And you almost ripped the jack off your trailer. And And then we hunted for 2 days, and then Sadie got her deer, and then we went over here and we hiked for a day or two, and then we had to pack that one out. They remembered every detail of every single deer they've shot. Now tell me what's more impactful on those kids in their life, right? Sports they look at as a whole. They roll from volleyball into basketball, into track, into wrestling, into football, right? It's just what they do all year. Frankly, right now, it's like it's all year long. They're in sports, and I love it. I think it's all beneficial. It teaches them hard work and teamwork and everything. But when you pull them out of that sport for a week and you just take them hunting and you shut the cell phones off and you hike around the Missouri River breaks, they don't forget that shit. And that's why this year I feel like is my last year with my son. Very likely will be a college scholarship athlete. My daughter just got a full ride in basketball. He'll likely be full ride in football or basketball, whichever one he chooses. He probably won't be able to go his junior, senior year. And then you can just tick off the next 4 or 5 years, right, with college sports.
Reality, yeah.
And so I said, hey, man, it's probably going to be 6 to 7 years before this is even an option. And then at that point, 7 years from now, I don't know, like, am I around? Can we even afford a moose hunt? Can you even moose hunt? Like, all these different, like, hypotheticals, right? Shit, you senior in college, you might be married and having a kid. Can you even go moose hunting, right? And so I was just like, I understand, but trust me, when you're 35 years old, your first 10 days of your sophomore year, you're going to be telling stories about your moose hunt, but
guaranteed.
And I asked, bringing the story all the way back around, I asked Derek Wolf.
Yeah.
And he was like, bro, do I need to call him?
Okay.
He was like, I played in the freaking NFL. He's like, that kid's a machine. He's a worker. He's in the gym every single day, working out year round. Take 10 days off and go moose hunt. That's a life experience that most kids never get, right? We're in a fortunate spot to be able to go and do this. Go moose hunt, I
can't argue, man.
And so Hank was really wavering, and we were talking with a senior running back on the team, and he was like, wait, what? You can go moose hunt? And he was like, go moose hunt. And even the senior running back was like, dude, go hunt. Like, come home. You'll play the rest of the games, whatever. But
I think that's a good call.
It's tough because from a teammate perspective, you preach to your kids this whole time, like, we don't miss practice, right? You better be deathly sick. I mean, you go puke on the sideline and get back in your drill, right? Yeah. That was kind of the mentality of, like, you don't miss practice. You especially, you're a team leader. You lead by example. And I actually think we overdid that a little bit. Not that I have regrets, but just like if I knew somebody right now with a 10-year-old, or like, how old's your boy?
He's 8.
Yeah. Like, when he's 11 and he's in baseball and he's the best, little shortstop on the team, and it's summertime and you guys get a chance to go fishing somewhere, it's like, go fishing. Man.
Let's go fishing instead. No, sports can be all consuming, and I understand there's that balance, but it is a conglomerate. It's just a blur of the kids see it from that 10,000 foot view as I just did sports, and maybe they remember that they made it to the championship game. But damn it, I love sports, that you are learning, honestly, how to deal with other people that are different than you, and how to work towards the same common goal with people that don't have a lot of things in common.
Right.
And that happens here at HQ. You're doing your employee reviews right now. There's a lot of people, a lot of different personalities, but they're all learning how to work together for MKC.
Right.
And I want my kids to learn that through sports, because I don't know of a lot of other places where you can learn that and face some adversity. And honestly, that delayed gratification, I was huge into training for sports. Mm-hmm. I put work in the weight room. I got a direct result that was a byproduct on the field. And I love that. It's carried into everything I do. So I really like that your kids are the leaders of the team and do not miss practice and are at camps right now.
Right.
But dang it, they need a break. They need to go spend some time with dad in the mountains.
Well, it's that family, when else are they going to go spend 3 days with their sister or sisters, in a camper in eastern Montana? That's the other thing about hunting that is so cool is you don't go to the Missouri River breaks on vacation. Like that's not
Nobody
a destination. That's not a destination spot, right? But when you're sitting on this little clay hillside in the Missouri River breaks and you're looking over that Missouri River and you start talking to your kids about like, imagine freaking Lewis and Clark paddling upstream right now. Like wondering if Indians are going to ambush them around every corner and are bears going to eat them at night. And, you know, is there a waterfall up ahead that they're going to have to portage around? And, you know, they're rowing upstream into an area that, as far as they're concerned, no one's ever been, right? Like, and when you sit in that country, and I've told my kids, the only reason we're here is because we hunt. You know, the only reason Hank and I are going to the Yukon this fall is because we hunt. You know, how often would people fly into the middle of the bush in Alaska or Canada or go to Africa if they didn't hunt? You know, it's so like you were saying, it's less about killing an animal and it's more about like the experience of where you get to go. Hank and I are going to spend 10 days on horseback camping every night wherever we end up looking for two moose.
So portable spike. Just wherever, yeah, that's cool.
Wherever we end up. And it's pre-rut, so it's spot and stalk moose and with a bow.
Archery?
Yep.
And you're wearing a Matthews shirt?
Yeah.
What are you shooting?
The Phase 4.
Yeah. 33?
Yep. Love it.
What's your boy shoot?
He just got a Hoyt. His draw length got so long that he grew out of he had a PSE. I can't even remember.
Is he over 30-inch draw?
Yeah, I think he's 31.
What's Derek Wolf's? I think it's like 33, 34.
33. Yeah, it's long. Actually, Derek and him were talking a lot about it because of their draw lengths.
I don't have those problems.
I told Hank, dude, I'm like, your arrow's going to be traveling at freaking Mach 2 down the road when you're Derek's size and you can pull
unfair
80 pounds easily.
All that extra energy.
Oh my gosh.
It's not fair. Yeah.
I think Hank may or may not use his bow. He might just use rifle and I'll use my bow.
Sure.
We can use either one, but I'm going to give it a shot with a bow for sure.
1,000%. And, you know, that pre-rut, and then you're with Dustin Rowe. He's been doing it. He's one of the best to do it. Sheep, moose, anything BC.
Yep.
Yeah, no. And he's an actual hunter. Like, he's not just an outfitter. He's an actual legit diehard bow hunter. So
well, and I look forward. We're going to fly into a small lake where they've kind of got their base camp. Then we'll load up the horses, and then what I really loved about it was that once we leave camp, we're not coming back. You know, and obviously with moose, it's damn nice to have horses as far as packing all that out. I mean, two moose. I mean, forget about it. But it does with those horses. It allows you to look over a lot more country because I know a lot of people have gone up moose hunting. You're on foot, and you're like, you know, I can see a moose 3 miles away, but not going over there. You're not going to get it out.
Take you all day to get there.
Yeah.
And
packing out a Yukon moose that size. Have you moose hunted?
I've killed an Idaho bull.
Have you?
Drew that in 15 or 16.
Yeah.
My dad drew in 2009 in Idaho. I've never drawn Washington or Montana, and I haven't gone up north.
Yeah.
So I think if I wanted to, you know, I've always wanted to do that Alaska Yukon moose type hunt, but quite honestly, I'm just not willing to give up a single day of September for moose hunting.
Right.
So when that day comes, that'll mean I'm willing to give up, which I'm not at this point.
So that's what's beautiful about the last day of my hunt is September 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll be home September 4th.
Okay. See, that's fair. Right at Labor Day. And you guys, your season starts.
It's right there. It's
late this year, 7th or 8th in Montana.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it bounces around there. But yeah, I mean, it's like
you're not going to miss opening day.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think Labor Day is like our last day of the hunt, or no, the day before Labor Day, however that falls. But, that's what I was so excited about is we get to come home and roll right into elk season.
Yeah.
Which is badass.
There's a chance you could get one in velvet.
It's 100%. It's velvet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I remember I just pulled a camera back in bear season, and I had this bull moose walk by August 30th, and then he came back by September 1st. It's on video mode. It's cool. I can send you the clips. But it's just velvet, and then 2 days later, just white with red and just a little bit. I mean, he shaved. All that velvet came off in within 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
He just went and hit
right around the September
tree
1.
and just raked it all off.
Yeah. So you'll be in that time frame where.
Yeah, we start hunting August 20th.
Okay, so yeah, you could be full velvet moose.
Yep.
That would be so cool.
Yep. And Dustin said it should be full velvet moose, and it should be badass.
Oh,
and
man.
I mean, they've gotten some big ones up there. So, and he said everybody comes up with a rifle. He said actually, they only, not that I really care about this too much, but they only just started keeping books on velvet moose as a separate category, and he's like, very, very good chance to shoot the world record if you shoot one with a bow.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be cool.
That'd be really cool. I'm just glad you do it with the bow. That's cool. I mean, I don't care if you do it with the rifle or bow, but I love the bow, the connection, the getting close, because when your hunt starts is probably when your oldest boy, when his hunt will end. He'll see one in range, shoot it, and then if it was you, see it, that your hunt starts, go.
Right. And that's kind of what we talked about. I mean, most likely we'll try to find him a good bull, get it done with a rifle, and then I kind of have the rest of the time with a bow to.
Which you'll need.
Yeah.
I mean, bow hunters just need that time.
Yep.
That time is the thing.
I had like spot and stock mule deer in Arizona. So badass. I love the spot and stock, because that's the other thing about moose. I mean, it'd be cool if we could call it in. It would be handy. But that was the other thing, is they're really not going to be calling yet. So he said you're going to have to stock in on the moose, which, again, just like I did with the mule deer, that feeling when you actually spot and stock in like on a mule deer from 2 miles away and kill it at 30 yards, like, it's such a cool feeling, because the odds are so against you actually being successful.
Yeah, they're built to catch you at a peripheral, 270-degree peripheral vision.
Yep.
Ears that are inches and pointed in any direction, and they can move independently. So then they have sonar backyard advance. I mean, you're on their home turf. Like, yeah, it is a thing.
Yeah. And the moose, just the size of those animals is just, they're just enormous. Cool.
When did you walk up on your first moose in your life where you were just like, oh my gosh?
I was probably 12 or 13, like elk hunting in Lincoln. Because where we elk hunted east of town, there's a lot of moose down in that area.
Yeah.
And, it was up like, I think it was Meadow Creek area. Came up on a moose, and it was just like, holy shit. And they're not even big compared to like the Canadians or the Yukon moose, but still, they're just so damn big, and they have an attitude.
Oh yeah.
They can be, it's funny. My grandpa worked in the bush way north in BC back in I think it was in the 70s. My grandma was the camp cook, and she got trapped in an outhouse all day by a moose.
I believe it.
It was right in the middle of camp, wouldn't let her out.
Yep. Could you imagine all day? Yeah, no. Moose are scary, especially cow moose.
Yeah.
Like moose meat, I would say, I mean, I'll say it publicly. I think moose meat is better than elk meat, and I love elk meat.
Same.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So that'll be nice to bring that home too.
Yeah. I can't imagine two of them. Well, and we have a freezer downstairs here for the employees.
I've seen that.
That we put in, we just put meat in there for them to take home.
That's cool.
So the first year we had it, we put my daughter's elk that she got here when she was 12. She got that elk, and we put part of my wife's elk in there. And then last year, we kind of got skunked on the elk stuff. So my wife got an elk, but last year we just went and bought a beef at the 4-H fair here, at the 4-H sale. Actually, the neighbor rancher kid, we bought that beef, and we just put that whole beef, and we bought a hog and just put it all in the freezer for the employees. So it's kind of like we have a bunch of young employees, and it's like if they have a date or something like that and they want to take home some steaks and cook them, just put them in there and ask them to just, use it for special occasions.
Yeah. No,
which is cool.
You do have young, really fit looking, healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an awesome group.
There's a vibe here.
Yeah.
Cool culture, man.
That's how we hire.
Nice seeing it in real life.
Yeah.
Pretty excited for you guys.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, they do. They work out together. They hike together. Like it's a cool vibe. They go shoot their bows together. I mean, there's nothing cooler than hiring all these people, putting all these pieces together, and then see them like want to go do stuff on the weekend together. They go hunt together. They go fish together. This makes for a really cool vibe, But how did the I don't know if I've heard the story about like, how did Elk Shape come along? Because
Yeah.
you said you were working out through sports.
Yeah.
Didn't want to quit that, obviously, when you decided not to play college baseball, so you kept working out.
Yeah. Man, it's the name Elk Shape. Sometimes I'm like, God, do I like that name? Do I want to change it? Because ultimately I'm an elk hunter, like obsessed with elk hunting. And I killed a bull when I was 20 years old with a rifle, about a 5-minute hunt. Got a bull, pretty stoked about it. Looked into archery, realized, oh, you can hunt them while they're bugling. I'm getting a bow.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do. And then I went elk hunting for 5 seasons straight, Josh. And I'm not talking like, oh, I went out this weekend. No, man. I mean, I'm like, I literally would like talk to professors and be like, I'm going to miss the first 2 weeks of college. I'd talk to my general manager or regional manager, be like, I'm not managing the gym. Like, I will quit if I can't go elk hunting. Like, so for 5 years, I elk hunted minimum 2-3 weeks of September and did not kill an elk until 2006. So from 01 to 06, cut my teeth trying to kill an elk. Each year I'd come back.
All just public land hunting.
All public land, unsuccessful, and it wasn't for effort. And I had no mentorship. And I was literally getting back to the lab and like, okay, what do I need to do? Is it my bow setup? Is it my arrows? Is it my calling? Is it my gear? Is it my fitness? And so like, it was like a year-round obsession of how can I kill an elk this year? When I finally did, I cannot even tell you if I could bottle up the feeling I felt when I walked up on my first 6-point bull that took me 5 years to finally get on public land. I mean, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
And that was...
Did you call that bull in? Did he come in? Or
I stalked him.
Did you?
Yep. I just glassed him across the canyon in New Mexico, got in front of him, and he fed right by me 20 yards broadside and put a good one in him, and I just couldn't believe it. It was a nice bull. He's over 300 inches. It was just a good old-fashioned awesome bull, and I was hooked, man. I was like, all this delayed gratification was worth it.
Right.
So that kind of sets the backdrop for Elk Shape is like, it is a lifestyle of like leveraging elk hunting and how hard it is and working towards it to ultimately make the best version of yourself.
Right.
You know, so it isn't like necessarily a training program, although we have a training program, and it isn't like an Instagram account that's supposed to motivate you. It is a way of life that like, I feel like you are blessed to call yourself an elk hunter and you shouldn't squander that gift.
Right.
Use it as your leverage and trick yourself into waking up early and working out because you need to get in shape. You don't need to be in great shape to kill an elk. You and I both know that, but you'll certainly enjoy the experience a hell of a lot more. And you might actually have more Septembers in your life if you take care of your body. Right. The end. So,
yeah. And that's the one thing I will say about hunting. I mean, my wife and I just worked out in the basement together this morning. I've been trying to get back on track, and a big part of it is hunting season, elk season. Like, you know, let myself get, you know, a ways out of shape. And if you didn't hunt, like, what would maybe be the motivation? Like, you know, I know a lot of guys that keep themselves in relatively decent shape just to hunt elk or hunt in general. But if they didn't, I guarantee you they would let it slip. And like you say, it then starts to extend your actual life length. I mean, it's legitimately extending the length of your life. You know?
I legitimately want as many Septembers as possible. How many do I have left? I do not know. The good Lord knows.
Right.
But it is finite. So if I can be a better husband and a better father and trick myself into eating more vegetables and lean protein elk sources and training year round because I want to be better in shape for elk hunting, call it whatever shape you want. I want to do the elk thing. I love it. Right. It makes me tick. It motivates me. So that's why we started the brand.
What year did you start that?
So in 2010, I started Train to Hunt with a partner. And it was essentially just getting people ready for their hunt, sheep hunters, whatever, online training. And him and I kind of split ways. He kept it. In 2013, I was like, man, I don't really care about sheep hunters or mule deer hunt. I care about elk hunters. I want to make a fitness program for elk. I'm calling it Elk Shape. So in 2013, kind of started it and really didn't do it full time until 2019. sold my gym and just told my wife, hey, we got enough money in the account for me to do this for about a year, maybe 2. And I'm either going to run out of time or money. So let me give it a shot. And she gave me the blessing. She was a nurse. It wasn't a year later. She was quitting her job as a nurse because I didn't want her to work anymore. I needed all hands on deck for Elk Shape.
Which is really cool. I mean, my wife quit her job in the fall of 21.
Did she?
To come
She was
to work
a teacher?
Here.
Yep.
School teacher. And well, the deal there was she went to a meeting and they had announced that they were going to make them wear masks again going into the fall. And
I'm out.
She came home and said, you're either hiring me or I'm going and finding a job because I'm not doing that. Like,
you were like,
and I was like, I mean, it was stressful at that time because, you know, I think we had Tristan and Melissa working for us, and you know, you're also asking yourself, like, am I hiring her because we need her? Because that's one thing I always said. I won't just hire. If I hear a friend loses a job, I'm not going to just hire them because they're a friend. Yeah. Like, we have to hire people because we need them.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, do we really need her? Or am I just hiring her because she doesn't want to go back and teach? And, you know, we ended up making the call. We hired her. And then like 2 months later, I realized how much she already had on her plate and how much busier it was. We were just on this crazy growth curve, right? And 2 or 3 months later, I'm like, thank God we hired her, you know, and now she's in charge of all of the fulfillment and all customer service. So it's,
oh, wow.
You know, and she has 2 people working under her. So it was the right move. But it's a cool, my point is it's pretty cool when you're chasing your dream and then your wife can quit and work and help you do it.
Yeah, it was similar. Like Alicia had never been written up, or she's like the most positive, contagious person you want on her floor, and she's working on a nursing floor that pretty doom and gloom, to be quite honest. And so I could just see her being the only sunlight there. Mm-hmm. And some new supervisor came in and like wrote her up for something so lame, and I was like, "Hey." I stood out there. I was like, "Hey, I have plenty of work for you with Elk Shape," because I was doing I didn't have an employee, and she's like, "Okay," and I didn't think much of it, but I literally needed help invoicing, books, counting shit I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
Next day, she's like, "I put my notice in." I was like, "Okay,
all right, we're doing this."
And she had a good job. I mean, she's a nurse, you know. So I was like, "Okay." So yeah, no, it's cool, but I really love hearing about your success. Anyone who gambles or puts their bets, their chips in on themselves, I'm here for it. Like, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I love there's so many different ways to do it. Like the American dream, right? Quote unquote, the American dream. What is that? And it's like, well, it's whatever your dream is. And if you are willing to work hard enough at it and make some of the right decisions and whatnot, and it's not just a matter of just like, I do have people message me once in a while and they're like, so motivated by what you're doing. I'm thinking I'm just going to quit my job and go after this dream. And I'm like, hold on a second.
Pump the brakes, pal.
Yeah. Like, how much are you making off of that dream right now? Well, I haven't started it. I need to quit my job so I can take the time to go build it. And it's like, bro, you better get up earlier and go to bed later and keep your job. Like, you know, there is a difference between, like, when I quit my job, my wife had been telling me for a couple months straight, like, you have got to quit your job.
And not like you're quitting. Like, my brother-in-law is a lineman. My dad worked for a Vista. Mm-hmm. That's where he retired. So I got nothing but love for linemen.
Yeah.
My little nephew's becoming a lineman. I know about all the line schools.
Great job.
I have so many friends that are linemen, a lot of them in the Coeur d'Alene area. That's such a damn good job. Not only does it pay well, it pays really well.
It's a fun job.
You do cool shit and you earn it because you started out as probably a grunt or a groundsman, and then the apprentice, and then finally you become journeyman lineman, and then you probably worked up. Dude, that's a lot of steps.
Yep.
And you're going to walk away from that, and you probably had benefits.
And it really is a fun job. Like I told you, we covered out to Idaho, so we'd be here on a, you know, even at work in the middle of the day in December, and boss would call and be like, I need you to take the snowcat and go to the top of Taft. We got a tree line somewhere. You got to go find it.
Sweet.
It's like badass. Like, you know, taking a snowcat to the top of a mountain, play in the snow, go climb a power pole, saw some trees out of the line, you know.
And you're getting paid for it really well.
Yeah, and we're going to probably end up home at 3 a.m, so we're going to make double time tonight. Like, it was not an easy job to quit. I mean, for jobs around here.
Yeah, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, there's the BS parts of any job, but
sure.
But man, at any moment, thunderstorm comes in, knocks a bunch of trees down, and for the next 4 days, you're just not sleeping. But it was a blast. It was a blast. So,
but to your point, you were doing Montana Knife and that, getting up earlier than you want, staying up later, and you just go until you kind of have to make a decision.
Yeah.
That's the formula. That's what I did too. Like I remember I was a firefighter as well, part-time, and I worked my ass off to become a firefighter. It was very competitive to become one. I remember telling the chief, like I had to go tell him I'm quitting. And I just remember his face. He was just like, idiot. Okay, fine. Like, right. And I was like, I felt like an idiot too, but I really wanted to chase this dream, and I wanted to have zero regrets as I got older that I didn't go for it. Because quite honestly, I could go get another job as a firefighter, or I could go open another gym, and you could go get hired but you can only give it a shot at Montana Knife one time.
Yep.
So why not bet on yourself? But yeah, you can't just quit to go start something.
No, you have to. That's the thing. You have to put some time and some effort in. Because you're going to probably end up working those hours anyway. You know, when you do own your own business, you are going to be working on Saturdays and Sundays and early mornings and late nights at times.
Yeah.
And you're right. I could easily, and that's the one thing. It's like, I don't know how brave it was really to quit that job, knowing that, well, I knew I probably wouldn't be able to get back on here, because getting jobs here, you know, at that time, it's tough. But I could go get a job somewhere and be a lineman. Like, I wasn't going to probably let it get to the point where I was going to lose my home.
Yeah, you could be a traveling lineman.
But you have a backup plan. It's like, I can go contract.
Yeah.
You know, but that's going to suck. I mean, you're not going to see your family. So it's part of why I hung these tools right back here. Is like, you know, anytime you think you're having a hard day here, it's like, do you want to put those on and go climb poles again? You know?
Amen to that. But, yeah, and that's not your brand. You know, right. Whatever that power company is, it's not your baby.
No.
Problem with being self-employed too is like clocking out is hard to do.
Yep.
And it's actually almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember the last time you clocked out?
When I was a lineman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and working with your wife too. I mean, you also have to have that balance of like, every now and then I even tell my wife, I'm like, hey, put the phone down. You don't need to answer that email right now. Like, you know, it's so easy to let this bleed into your evening. And it's like, do you really have to do that right now? No. You know, or, you know, we find ourselves, you know, sitting in the hot tub, and the next thing you know, you're talking all about work. And it's like, you know, and some of it is really exciting, and that is part of but it is who we are and what we do, right?
I feel that.
You love it. And a lot of it is like, that is actually what we want to talk about. But then there's other times where it's like, you got to have some balance. And
insert hunting trips. It takes you away. It gets you to places that you otherwise not be. You don't vacation in the breaks, but you go hunt there.
Right.
Well, the cell phone service is not existent. And so you can't be inundated by SMS, emails, all that. And honestly, it puts you to the test of like, well, how well oiled is this machine? Yep. It should be able to run without you
100%.
If you did it proper.
Yep. And that's what, you know, your guy asked me downstairs about if it was hard for me to like turn over a lot of the work that's happening down there.
It's a good question.
And he said, when you know you can probably do it better. And I was like, well, first of all, actually hire people that are better than me, like smarter than me. And that's how you build a great brand. Like, I'm not an engineer. I wasn't even a machinist. I was a hand making knives. Like, those machines down there, those guys running those guys are freaking wizards.
Yeah.
Right. But to your point, if you build teams right, and there's two ways to build a company. There's build everyone under you, or build everyone around you, which means around means maybe not over the top from a decision-making standpoint, but smarter than you or
Certainly.
more qualified. Like, why do you think someone hires like a controller, a CFO, right? Like you hire people into their expertises, and especially like on the knife side, like I have people down there that are better at doing some of those processes than me. Now, when it comes to, the overall process of making a knife start to finish, like I can still do the thing, right? That's a lot of our people tend to be siloed in their areas, but they've mastered that certain area, and that's what you need, But to your point, you have to be able to leave, and there's nothing better knowing that when you leave and you come back and shit just ran, it's like, we got some pretty cool people. We have amazing people. I can't even, it's ridiculous. People do tend to shit on young people these days a lot, and some of that's maybe warranted, but I'll guarantee you 80 years ago, people were shitting on young people then too.
Oh yeah, that's a generational.
Like my daughter who just graduated salutatorian in her class, you see the homework she brings home and just try to read the question, much less answer it. Like a lot of these kids are really freaking smart. The way they push these kids in school, a lot of the shit that these kids are learning and what they're doing, damn, they're smart, And when we hire, I graze through their, glaze over their resume really fast. I go straight to their social media. Are they getting up on a Saturday morning and going for a hike? Are they going hunting? Are they doing something with their family? Like, are they doers? I said, I don't care what you're doing, as long as it's somewhat productive. If I look at your social media and I see you're on a mountaintop at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, you got up early and you went and did something, and you didn't have to. You wanted to do that. That's the kind of person that I see. Like, I can teach that person anything, but they are self-motivated. That, posting pictures of themselves in the gym or whatever it is, right? Social media, to me, I tell my kids all the time, that's your actual resume, because you're showing
Can you tell my face? I'm like, oh, I've never, because I'm the same age as you, essentially, where, bro, we grew up without the internet, okay? Yep. And telephones, it was cool when you got your first cordless. Right. That was a big deal. So we've grown up and we've been in the middle of it and see how internet's changed the game. I mean, you remember AOL, early days through your modem telephone. Nowadays with smartphones and stuff, holy crap, I haven't thought about it. I literally have never thought about that, hiring someone and looking at their social media. Mm-hmm. But you're damn straight, that's what you would do.
That's what they're choosing to show for the last 18 months, 2 years of their life. You can look through and see, what are they choosing to show the world? Tells you a lot about that person, right? Yeah. Are they drunk all the time? And it's fine if they want to go have some fun and do some stuff, whatnot. But do all they ever do is party, right? Are they family oriented? Are they doing stuff with their wife, their kids? Are they helping coach their kids' teams, or what are they? Are they doers? That's the only question. I don't care what it is that they're doing. People are going to be doing different things when they're single or male or female or where they're from.
Sure.
But I tell my kids all the time, I know one of the coaches for the Packers, his job for the draft is literally to go through all of those players' social medias. What are they getting as a brand? What are the Green Bay Packers going to get?
That makes sense.
And, are they, because it's a judgment thing, right?
Yeah.
We've all done stupid shit, but are you dumb enough to post it on your social?
I'm just glad there was no social when I was a teenager.
100%. Yeah. And that's why I say kids these days have more responsibility at times even than we had.
Yeah, you're right.
That phone is a gigantic amount of responsibility. Resist the temptation to be looking at porn all day or be on websites they shouldn't be on or posting shit that they shouldn't be posting. Like you say, back when we were in college, you didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. No. So everything is out in front of the world.
Stresses me out right now because I got a 10 and 8-year-old and they don't have phones, but they're going to get them eventually, right?
Yeah, we got ours finally when they were probably 13, 14, because it was hey, Dad, I'm done with practice, or, they're carpooling to games. A lot of it was sports related.
Yeah, that may be the flip phone may come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to phone? Here's your flip phone. Text me.
Call me or text me. Yeah. No, but it's I tell my kids, like, hey, Hank, college coaches just this last week, we're really starting to chat with him about some things at camp, right? And it's like, guarantee you they're going to start following you on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed. What kind of a kid is that? And I said, that's why, you should be posting a photo of yourself every day that you're in the gym.
Sure.
Just because it shows those coaches like, yeah, you're in the gym every day at 6 a.m. without fail. And a lot of times at night at 7 p.m., you're back in the gym. A lot of times he's twice a day in the gym just by himself. Janitors let him in and he's just in the gym by himself. That shows those coaches a lot, even as a person hiring, if I'm hiring that kid in 4 years, I'm like, damn, I'm looking back at this kid. The last 3 years he was in high school, he's a wrestler.
He's disciplined.
He's disciplined. I already know that,
And he's self-appointed. Like he is assigning himself and he's accomplishing. I love that, man. That's positive. And that's, that's room to celebrate social media, the good of it.
Yeah.
Like anything, there's good and the bad.
It's the most powerful marketing tool too that we have. Like when I was a knife maker and I was 16, 17 years old, you had to get lucky. Like I always remembered dreaming about Field and Stream, like wanting to put a knife of mine in their magazine. But imagine how lucky you would have to get to somehow, how would you run across that writer? I remember I used to send photos into Field and Stream every now and then. Like knife magazines were good to me, but you had to buy an ad in a magazine if you wanted to be in it. You had to go to a knife show to be seen. And with a click of a mouse today or a thumb, you can go show your shit to 200,000 people or 1 million people or whatever. Like you can build your Elk Shape brand right through social media and it's free. It's literally free. It's I tell my kids it's the most powerful marketing tool that you have and it's free to use. It's unbelievable, and it's real time. Blade Magazine would run articles about me when I was a kid and they would come out 4 months later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I love the magazines though. I still have love for magazines. A lot of the that next generation doesn't really appreciate it and that's fine. But I used to write, like that's what I would do. And that's how I got my foot in the hunting industry was I got an article penned in 2006 and I was like, oh, I'm going to be an outdoor writer. This is cool. That died. That dream died pretty fast after 4 or 5 years. I definitely got a lot of stuff in print, but as soon as I started seeing digital, I don't remember what year it was exactly. It might have been 2012 or 13 where I completely turned down all writing. I'm like, I'm not going to do any more writing gigs because I can just make a video.
Yep.
A lot faster and say way more and explain in detail.
Right.
And so, I don't think I've written in so long. And
John Radzwilla from Hook and Barrel was just here and did a podcast last week. And I was telling him.
That's that Texas guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was telling him, I said, the thing that's unfortunate about the digital era, the video you just told me about, it's just going to get washed over in the sea of content day after day, right? Mm-hmm. I look at it like the ocean. If you watch the water coming in on a beach, it just keeps washing and just keeps pulling sand over it, right? And it just keeps every single day for the next 20 years, that content is just going to get buried deeper.
True.
Right? The thing about a magazine, if they ran an article about you in their magazine, that's a magazine you can go throw in a tub in your storage shed. In 30, 50 years from now, a grandkid of yours can open up that tub and not even know you were ever in it and just discover it.
Yeah.
Just be like, wow, right? The magazines felt, and they still to this day feel so special because it's real.
Yeah, it's tangible.
Yeah, it's tangible. And you can also get that magazine and throw it on your nightstand or coffee table or whatever and not get to it for 30 days and open it up and read that article when you have time. Mm-hmm. This is the problem with content that we all live in right now is you post a piece of content today, and if somebody that loves you and follows you doesn't see it in the next few days, or maybe he's in hunting camp for 2 weeks and he comes out of hunting camp, unless he goes digging, he's probably not going to see it. He's going to see what's being posted that day.
No doubt. No doubt. And that's fine. And that's why I love YouTube, because of the searchable characteristics of YouTube, whereas Instagram and it's really tough to search anything.
Yep.
You can type in exactly the thing you're trying to learn about or be entertained about,
get
in
a
the
catalog.
search bar.
Yeah.
And boom. And that's why I tell my kids I like doing YouTube, is because I'm just categorizing and organizing a lot of my adventures, and some of them are educational, and your kids as kids can probably see some of my stuff.
Yep.
Whereas
they can run down that rabbit hole.
Love to have seen my dad hunting with his dad. I don't care how shitty a video quality on the internet right now. If I could stream that, I'd freaking watch them hunting in Georgia for whitetails. That's what I've said. 30-30s.
That's what I've said so cool about podcasts. I mean, 50 years from now, you might have a great grandchild listening to this episode.
Sure.
Wanting to learn about this crazy ass great grandpa you had that ran over the place and hunted elk.
Yep. Exactly.
It's not what you think about when you're 40 years old and you're doing your thing today.
Sure.
But it's what I say about a knife though, or a gun, right? You're not really thinking about that knife, that gun, or whatever it is that you're using today. It's just a tool. But in 50 years from now, his son, your boy's son, might be like, this was my grandfather's knife that he used on an elk hunt in New Mexico in 2024, and it's now 2075. Mm-hmm. It's something tangible that's real that you held in your hands that they can hold in their hands. As men, we've always passed down knives and guns, generally.
Yeah.
And, bows.
And stories to go with them.
And stories, yeah. It's just, I don't know. So that's with magazines and with print and stuff, it does feel like something that's so tangible. Like I have all the old articles and stuff that were written about me when I was a kid that are thrown in a tub. My mom would save that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of cool when my kids, every now and then get to see that stuff, pull it out, and it's like they see pictures of you when you're a kid,
I have a whole tub of all the writings somewhere. Can't wait to bust that out. I haven't shared it with them, but it'll be cool. And man, you're right. Like, it is so difficult to write something compelling and engaging without the use of anything else other than the spoken word on paper.
Yeah.
It will never grow tired of reading a really good hunting story in print.
Yeah.
It's just something different. It hits different.
Yeah.
So I still got nothing but love for that,
Right.
So.
Well, it probably brings you back to when you were a kid and you were reading those articles.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you coming over here. Love having you on board. Love having you working with us. And, hopefully down the road we get to hunt together a little bit.
I think we will. Yeah.
Yeah. Love what you do. Love your energy, your positive, like you're just a freaking Energizer bunny, it feels like. But I really do appreciate it. And, when we work with people, it's about working with people that we really think are good humans, good people. And you guys, you're clearly that. So, and it's cool, that we're kind of crazy for doing it, but chasing that American dream, right? Quitting your job and doing what you're doing to go chase elk around and work out. And you had a vision, kind of like what I had going, where you had a vision of what you thought you could build. And, all you really need is a supportive wife and a lot of hours in the day.
That's about it. Yep.
Made it happen. It's pretty cool. So,
where
can people find you? Give your Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. Website.
Just Elk Shape, all one word, searchable. You can find us. We're selling hard work.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, man.
You bet.